Relax, sweetheart. You're just an intern. That's what Ryan said, right there in front of 12 people, the entire marketing team staring at me like I'd spilled coffee on the CEO. My throat locked. The conference room lights were too bright, the glass walls too thin. I could see my reflection, wide eyes, frozen smile, while Ryan smirked and flipped through my slides, like he'd written them himself. He kept talking, each word cutting sharper than the last. We can't let the newbies handle big accounts, you know. They mean well. Laughter, polite, cruel. Even the HR manager smiled. I gripped the pen so hard it snapped in half. No one noticed. Inside, my stomach twisted. I'd worked for nights on that campaign deck. I skipped meals, rewrote copy until my eyes burned. And now he was stripping me bare, publicly, while taking credit for everything. I wanted to scream. Instead, I breathed. He leaned closer, his cologne too strong. Don't take it personal, Tara. It's just business. Just business. I looked him in the eyes and smiled, not sweetly, not politely, but the kind of smile you give someone you'll remember. And quietly, under my breath, I said, "You'll regret that." The bathroom smelled like citrus cleaner in silence. I locked the stall door and finally exhaled. The mirror showed someone I barely recognized, trembling hands, tear lines I refused to let fall. He'd embarrassed me in front of the whole department. Again. And worse, they'd all let him. For a second, I thought of quitting, walking out, leaving it all behind. But that felt too easy, too weak. No, I wouldn't cry. Not for him, not for anyone who thought intern meant invisible. My reflection stared back, steadier now. If I cry, I lose, I whispered. If I learn, I win. My phone buzzed. A text. "Ryan, tough day, kiddo. You'll get used to it." My jaw clenched. He even added a winking emoji. That was the moment I stopped being the intern and started becoming his quiet reckoning. I saved the text, not for proof, for memory, because someday I'd need to remember the exact tone of his arrogance. He said I was just an intern. A week later, his job offer came from me. My name's Tara Quinn. I'm 24, and that moment in the conference room, that humiliation, was the spark that changed everything. But let's rewind, back before the smirks, before the betrayal. Back when I actually believed working hard was enough. I didn't grow up with connections or confidence. I grew up with lists, grocery lists, rent reminders, color-coded dreams. When I got the internship at Madison and West Marketing, I thought I'd finally made it. First big firm, real clients, a real chance. Ryan was the senior strategist assigned to mentor me. He had that perfect hair, that too relaxed confidence, the kind that made everyone laugh at his jokes, even when they weren't funny. The first day he said, "Stick close, kid. I'll show you how this place really works." I thought he meant help. Turns out he meant leverage. And that's how it began, the slow unraveling of trust, ambition, and every illusion I had about fairness. Because Ryan wasn't just my mentor, he was my test. The first few weeks felt like a dream. I was finally in, real office, real projects, actual clients whose names I'd only seen on billboards. Ryan was friendly then, always cracking jokes, teaching shortcuts, buying coffee for his intern. Everyone loved him. I did too, for a while. He'd lean on my desk and whisper, "You've got good instincts, Tara. Don't waste them trying to impress the wrong people." And for a second, I believed he saw something in me. I worked late, every night. The janitors learned my name. Every time I'd send Ryan my work, he'd reply with small edits, praise in lowercase, "Nice touch," or "You're getting there." It felt like mentorship. It wasn't. One night, while printing reports, I overheard him in the break room. "Yeah, the intern's doing okay, kinda eager, but she still needs guidance. My touch, you know." Laughter. The kind that cuts just deep enough to make you doubt your own worth. I went home that night, staring out the bus window, whispering to myself, "You just have to prove yourself harder." I didn't know yet. He was already rewriting what I'd done and calling it his. By the second month, the shine had worn off. Ryan stopped inviting me into meetings. He'd forget to forward emails or send updates at midnight, then scold me for missing them in the morning. Whenever I spoke, he'd interrupt. "What Tara's trying to say is," then repeat my exact words, louder. He didn't yell or insult directly. He just erased me, one correction at a time. A smile here, a chuckle there, death by condescension. When I finally asked about being included on calls, he looked almost amused. "You need to earn your place," he said, tapping my desk. "No one hands respect around here." That night, I found an email chain about a pitch I'd drafted. My version was gone. His name sat at the top. He'd rewritten it, poorly, but still called it his concept. I wanted to march into his office and demand an explanation, but something stopped me, a gut feeling whispering, "Don't confront power, study it." So I said nothing. The next morning, I passed by his desk and heard him say to another coworker, "She's sweet, but she's not built for pressure. I'll handle the heavy lifting." My nails dug into my palm. Every word I swallowed that week turned into quiet fire. 3 weeks later, the department lead announced a huge opportunity, a high-stakes client pitch. "Fresh ideas only," she said. "Let's see something bold." That night, I stayed until the cleaning crew came through. I poured everything into it, the story, the visuals, the emotion. It wasn't just a presentation, it was my shot at being seen. Ryan found me still at my desk near midnight. He leaned on my chair, pretending to care. "You're a workaholic," he laughed. "Don't burn out before you even get your badge." I showed him the slides, proud, nervous. He nodded slowly, eyes flicking through. It's good," he said. "Could be better. How would I polish it up for you tonight? I'll send it to the director first thing." My stomach nodded. "I'd rather send it myself," I said carefully. He smiled, that same slow, knowing smile. "Trust me, Tara, this is how you get noticed." Something in me hesitated, but exhaustion won. I handed him the file. He walked away whistling, spinning his keycard around his finger. The next morning, the director's assistant congratulated him on his amazing presentation. And in that second, I understood. He hadn't polished it. He'd stolen it. The humiliation scene from Chapter 1 was only hours away. The boardroom was already full when I walked in. Ryan stood at the screen, remote in hand, my slides glowing behind him. For a moment, I thought it was a mistake, until he said, "I'll walk everyone through my new concept." My concept. Every line, every color choice, every late-night revision. My pulse thundered in my ears. He glanced at me once, quick and smug, as if to say, "Stay quiet if you know what's good for you." The room applauded when he finished. Someone called him a rising star. The director shook his hand, and I just sat there, smiling like a statue while my throat burned. When it was over, he leaned down and whispered, "Told you I'd get you noticed." I met his eyes, steady this time. "You did," I said, "just not the way you think." After the meeting, I didn't cry. I printed copies of my original deck, date-stamped and saved to a personal drive. Ryan strutted around the office high on praise. I watched him, calm. Every email he sent, every file he touched, I noted it. Not out of spite, out of strategy. He mistook my silence for defeat. He joked louder, bragged harder, acted like he'd already won. But he never noticed the new habit I'd picked up. A small notebook I kept by my keyboard. In it, dates, witnesses, file names. Some men build empires from charm. I was building a case from patterns. That night, before shutting down my computer, I whispered, "Revenge isn't rage, it's preparation." Once you start paying attention, you see it everywhere. The junior designer whose layout he adjusted, the copywriter whose tagline he refined, the intern before me who left after a nervous breakdown. Each story had the same fingerprints, his charm, their silence. I began collecting more than proof. I collected truth. Screenshots, drafts, voice notes of his feedback sessions, all stored quietly, safely. People liked him too much to suspect. That was fine. By the time anyone noticed, I wouldn't need their belief, just the receipts. And the universe apparently was listening. Because one Friday afternoon, HR sent a company-wide memo. Due to restructuring, certain departments will be downsized next quarter. I caught Ryan's smirk across the room. He didn't know yet. But that memo was the first domino. The downsizing memo hit everyone differently. Ryan swaggered through the week, bragging about new offers already lined up. I just smiled and kept working. My internship was ending soon anyway. I'd already applied to a small but fast-growing startup, one the industry barely noticed yet. It specialized in brand turnarounds, the kind of place that valued grit over titles. On my last Friday, Ryan stopped by my desk. "So, what's next for you, superstar?" "Something new," I said. He smirked. "Stay in touch. Maybe I'll hire you someday." I laughed quietly. He had no idea the company I was joining had just been acquired by a firm that regularly poached talent from Madison and West. That weekend, I deleted every angry draft email I'd ever written. I wasn't leaving bitter. I was leaving ready. New office, new city smell, different tone entirely, open-plan desks, sneakers instead of suits, and best of all, my new title, Junior Strategy Consultant. On my first day, my manager handed me a sleek laptop and said, "You came highly recommended." I blinked. "By who?" She smiled. "Your portfolio spoke for itself." For the first time, my work had my name on it. No edits, no erasures, just credit. 2 weeks later, HR stopped by my desk. We're bringing in applicants for a new senior strategist position. You might know one of them, Ryan Hale from Madison and West. My fingers froze on the keyboard. I kept my face calm. Ryan, I said softly. Yes, memorable. All weekend his name circled my mind like static. Ryan Hale. Interviewing here, at my new company. I didn't tell anyone the history. Instead, I focused on being excellent. Early mornings, flawless decks, unshakable composure. Let him walk into a place where my results spoke louder than his charm. Monday morning, HR leaned over my partition. Hey, Tara, would you mind reviewing one of the applicants' portfolios before the interviews? I nodded. Sure thing. She handed me a folder with a printed resume on top. Ryan's grin stared up at me in 8x10 clarity. My heartbeat steadied. Not faster, steadier. I placed the folder on my desk, opened it to the portfolio page, and saw a familiar layout, familiar color palette, familiar taglines. It was mine. My hand hovered over the trackpad. The file loaded slowly, like it knew what it carried. Slide by slide, I watched my own words scroll past me. Same structure, same campaign title, even the same typo in the tagline I'd fixed months ago. Except now it was stamped created by Ryan Hale. For a second I couldn't move. My chest was tight, but my face stayed blank. Across the open office, someone laughed about lunch orders. The normal world kept spinning while I stared at the proof of my own theft. Again. He hadn't even bothered to disguise it. He'd stolen from me twice, first my voice, now my past. I closed the file, exhaled slowly, and whispered, You just handed me the rope. That night I stayed late, alone, methodical. I opened my old drive, the one labeled Intern Backup. There they were, timestamps, drafts, and email trails with his name in every metadata field. I copied everything neatly into a new folder. Then I didn't rage, didn't vent. I made coffee, sat back down, and started writing a short internal note. Due diligence review, cross-verification of submitted portfolios. No emotion, no accusation, just professionalism dressed as procedure. Before I left, I attached the file and saved a copy to my desktop. My hands were steady. Revenge, it turns out, feels a lot like control returning. When I shut down my computer, the reflection in the dark screen smiled back. Calm, unbothered. Tomorrow, I'd start the game. The next morning, the hiring manager stopped by my desk. Tara, we're forming a small interview panel for next week's strategist role. Want in? You've got the best eye for campaign ethics. I looked up, neutral. Sure. Happy to help. Inside, something flickered, satisfaction but disciplined. I didn't want drama. I wanted precision. For the next few days, I studied every piece of Ryan's submission. I highlighted plagiarized lines, matched slides to my originals, noted exact timestamps. Each connection clean, factual, undeniable. By Thursday, I had a neat binder ready. Not titled Revenge, just documentation. When the email came through with the official interview list, I saw his name beside mine, and I felt nothing wild, nothing vindictive, just balance. Because the universe wasn't giving me revenge, it was giving me a second meeting in a different seat. The conference room smelled like burnt coffee and nerves. Ryan sat across from me, all charm and pressed confidence. He didn't even blink when he saw me on the panel, just gave that smirk that used to make my stomach drop. Hey, he said softly. Small world, huh? I smiled politely. Seems like it. The HR rep began introductions, oblivious to the invisible tension tightening between us. When Ryan started his presentation, I folded my hands, perfectly still. He clicked through each slide like he'd written every word. But I knew the rhythm. I had built it. Word by word. Halfway through, his voice stumbled on a phrase I coined. For a split second, his eyes darted to me. I didn't move. At the end, polite applause. Then my turn for questions. Ryan, I began gently, could you walk us through your creative process for this campaign? Specifically how you generated the tagline? He froze. The question was surgical. His fingers fidgeted with the clicker. I brainstormed it one night, actually. I tilted my head. Interesting. Because I found an identical draft timestamped 6 months ago under my account, the room went silent. The HR rep's pen stopped midair. Ryan tried to laugh it off. Coincidence? I met his eyes. Sure. If you believe in coincidences that come with version history. The meeting ended quietly, but whispers started before the door even closed. I kept my composure, polite smile, calm tone, while HR requested both of us to submit supporting documents for internal review. Ryan's confident gait faltered when he left the room. Mine didn't. Later that afternoon, I forwarded the evidence, dates, files, emails, even a screenshot of the original save logs. No commentary, no gloating, just facts. The next morning, his desk was empty, his mug still there, half full. By lunch, HR sent an internal memo about misrepresented work and breach of intellectual integrity. No names. But everyone knew. When I passed the break room, I caught fragments. Can you believe it? Wasn't that her project? She didn't even raise her voice. And that was the best part. I hadn't needed to. A week later, I received a meeting invite from corporate headquarters. At first, I thought it was about Ryan's case. But when I walked into the video call, the senior director smiled warmly. Tara, we were impressed with your composure and leadership during the review. There's an opening for a brand consultant, remote, full-time. Would you consider interviewing? I blinked, speechless for a moment. Of course, she nodded. You'd be surprised who recommended you. My stomach flipped. Who? Ryan's former manager, she said. Apparently, he spoke about your work often. Didn't realize you were the original creator. The irony stung sweetly. The man who dismissed me as just an intern had unknowingly written my reference. And next week, he'd be the one applying for a role under me. Ryan tried to contact me. Hey, Tara, can we talk? Please, he emailed. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I read every word once, then deleted them. My inbox felt heavier for a second, but I reminded myself I didn't need his recognition. I didn't need to respond. Meanwhile, my work gained visibility in ways I hadn't imagined. Senior management began consulting me for high-profile projects. The same meetings where I had once been silenced, I now led with confidence. When a colleague mentioned Ryan's application had been put on hold pending review, I almost smiled aloud. Not satisfaction, justice. The next project was a client pitch worth millions. I walked into the room where I'd been humiliated months ago, except this time, all eyes were on me. I delivered the presentation flawlessly. The clients were impressed. Even the quietest executive whispered to another, She's brilliant. How did we not notice before? Ryan wasn't in the room. He wouldn't be. I realized then that my power didn't come from proving him wrong. It came from proving myself right. A week later, the offer letter arrived. Not for Ryan, for me. I stared at it. Full-time position, higher title, more responsibility. And on the same desk, another envelope, Ryan's application review. I held both in my hands, feeling the weight differently. His ambition, my preparation. His arrogance, my patience. I signed my acceptance calmly, then looked at his envelope, labeled pending, and left it untouched. I didn't gloat. I didn't reply. I walked away. That afternoon, Ryan called. I ignored the call. He emailed. I didn't answer. He finally understood that no amount of pleading or excuses could reach me. Meanwhile, my desk overflowed with congratulatory messages, not because I ruined someone else, because I rose to a level where arrogance couldn't touch me. For a second, I thought back to the conference room, the moment he mocked me. I smiled quietly. He had underestimated me, completely. And that was enough. By Monday, the rumors had spread quietly but effectively. Ryan's credibility was gone. Clients questioned his integrity. Colleagues hesitated before sharing ideas. No tantrums, no dramatic confrontation. Just doors closing softly but firmly. I walked past his empty desk in the office, the chair still turned toward the window, the coffee cup still half full. He had left messages, voicemails, emails, even LinkedIn requests. I ignored every one. The final humiliation was organic. He had built his reputation on charm and stolen work. Without it, there was nothing. No one blamed me. No one needed to. His downfall was the natural consequence of arrogance. I leaned back in my chair, calm, watching the office hum. Sometimes I whispered under my breath. Some people create their own traps. Weeks later, my promotion was official. I mentored new interns, guiding them the way I had wished someone had guided me. I led campaigns, ran meetings, and signed contracts, all under my name. And the strange, sweet irony, Ryan's previous mentor had unknowingly recommended me for the role. I passed the conference room where I had once been humiliated. The memory still stung, but now it was fuel. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had growth, power, and respect. I smiled at a new intern struggling with a slide deck. You've got this, I said softly. Sometimes victory is measured in who you lift up, not who you tear down. The office was quiet as I walked out that Friday. Sunlight hit the glass facade, reflecting off my briefcase. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. He had lost everything he valued. I had gained everything I deserved. For a moment, I closed my eyes and whispered to myself. He said I was just an intern. Turns out, interns grow. Arrogance doesn't. The doors closed behind me, not with anger, not with triumph over someone else, but with the calm, unshakable power of someone who knew her worth and refused to let anyone define it for her again. Fade out on my smile, quiet, complete, earned.